he is a lost soul trying to find a niche that he can lay on or get on to do some good. You know, that's where the sadness is. If he'd stayed with the royal family, he would have those opportunities to help along the people that he needs to help. As Rafe has mentioned, you know, you have all these people, the various charities that nobody cares about, nobody ever's ever interested, unless, of course, the royal turns up. As we saw, you know, in one particular royal, Catherine, the other week when she turned up in Italy. And that's the sadness of Prince Harry. He is just aimless, walking around, not doing all that much.
Hi, all. Welcome to Royally Unfiltered, the show that takes you behind palace gates like never before. This week, helping me tackle all the biggest headlines is former Sun's royal editor Charles Ray and royal historian Rafe Heydel-Mankoo. Thank you so much to the both of you for being here. Rafe, I was talking to Dickie Arbiter about you the other day, and Dickie was like, he is so knowledgeable about everything that I'm afraid his head's going to explode one day.
Well, that's high praise coming from such the perfect professional as Dickie.
Well, it's true. I mean, I really appreciated the way that you explained the King Charles religion situation to my audience, and that's like I would clip that for your showbiz reel, Rafe. That's some good stuff right there.
Well, it's good to be able. Well, congratulations to you for actually having a platform where you can have those sort of discussions because too much of what we discuss about the monarchy is focused on the tabloid stuff, and there's
Mm.
too much scandal, the salacious gossip. There's a reason we have a monarchy, and it's not just for soap opera purposes. There's a very fundamental role that it plays in our society. And my great fear is that one of the reasons you're seeing a rise in republicanism, that's republicanism with a small r in this country, people who want to abolish the monarchy, is because they simply were never taught about the reason we have one, the value of it. All they see is the naughty, sordid, salacious gossip that seems to sell papers, and they lose sight of the real value and the meaning of it. So well done to you for giving us time to talk about it.
Oh, thank you so much. And Charles, we really saw the value of the monarchy a few weeks ago with the king in DC. Um,
Sure.
eh, this is not so serious of a topic, but I it did make me laugh out loud the way the king handled it. King Charles and Queen Camilla, they're in Northern Ireland for a 3-day visit. It's packed with public engagements and opportunities for the public to meet and greet. The king and queen, which is huge, get your picture, show the family, sit around the table, showing everybody that you met the king that day. And while greeting well wishers outside the Newcastle Community Cinema, the king he was pooped on, Charles, by a seagull. The droppings landed on the back of his jacket, and he had the best reactions. Somebody offered to hand him a new jacket, and so
Sure,
he could
yeah.
trade and get on a fresh jacket. But instead, he continued to shake hands with everyone there and made the joke, at least it didn't land on my head. I feel like this is kind of one of those. I mean, DC was another example of this sense of humor that a lot of us don't get to see very often. But behind
Well,
closed doors, he must be a really funny guy off the cuff.
we've discussed this before, and he is a funny guy. He has got a very good sense of humor. I mean, I've been with him behind closed doors, and his sense of humor is excellent. You can't fault it. And this seagull scenario is just a classic example. Now, in some circles, having a seagull poop on you is regarded as very good luck.
Yeah.
You may not think so because you've got to get to the dry cleaners after. Well, he doesn't. His valet will have to get to the dry cleaners after. But it was one of those things, and you know he took it in his stride. He could have thrown a strop and demanded that he get a new jacket. Well, he didn't do that. He just carried on with the job that he's there to do. And there was also another little scene a little later, I think it was, or before, where he was playing the ukulele. And I didn't even know he could strum the ukulele. It's something I was completely unaware of. So the Northern Ireland trip itself was, you know, was excellent. It was a place, Northern Ireland was a place where royals feared to tread at one time, in the days of the Troubles and so forth. But now it's a normal part of the UK. and he's there, and the people loved him. You just saw all the people around him, so it was great to see.
Rafe, uh, Americans, some of us have that video kind of like seared in our minds. Right when he becomes king, the pen doesn't work. And he is very frustrated. And I, unfortunately, I'm wondering if he was just like his emotions were heightened. He was nervous potentially. He just lost his mother and his father. But this is a great contradiction to that moment. Like, if this is truly who he is, like, glad it didn't land on my head. That's a much more relatable, or, that's a much more likable character.
Yeah, I mean, look, the king is very much the product of his mother and his father, both of whom had a wonderful sense of humor. The Queen was very dry. Prince Philip was rather more ribald, rather more outrageous. And you can always see a glint also in King Charles. I mean, every time King Charles engages with somebody and they make a little joke, you see a little glint in the king's eye. He loves comedy. You have to remember. I don't know how many of your American audiences will know of the Goon Show. Peter Sellers, the great actor, was a comedy troupe in the 1950s who were a sensate. They were superstars in this country on the radio. He adored them and became huge friends with them. And in fact, when he was at university at Cambridge, he would portray them and do acts and skits based on their comedy sketch shows. And it was a lifelong friendship he had with three of Britain's most famous and zany and wacky comedians. He's got a great sense of humor. It's very surreal as well. And so the fact that a bird pooped on him, I think he would have found very, very funny. If it was on his head, I'm surprised he didn't say, I've just been crowned by the by the birds as well. But of course, the Queen always used to say that the birds dropping on one was an occupational hazard, particularly at royal garden parties. And there was one occasion, I don't know if you remember, when Catherine, our current Princess of Wales, when she was Duchess of Cambridge, all the cameras zoomed in on her when she was outside because a leaf had landed on her, and everyone thought it was a bird that had deposited its business.
Uh, Charles, it did remind me of Meghan Markle's dress during the Oprah Winfrey interview, where she looked like she had
Yeah.
been rained in seagull droppings. And I mean, it looked very similar to a dress worn by Wallace, years and years before that. But it
Yeah.
also looked like somebody had an accident on her.
Yeah, it wasn't the best outfit she's worn, to be perfectly honest. Uh, and yes, you're absolutely right. It did have the hallmarks of a seagull passing over.
Rafe, I want to ask you because I used the word relatable, I think, earlier with you, and immediately I regretted it. There is a fine line between holding on to the mystique, staying royal, and also having cute stories in the paper like this, where everybody's like, oh, the king, he's so normal, just like us. He was a bird pooped on him. How do you rate the king in navigating that fine line of staying royal and regal, but also being just normal enough to where he might convert some people into caring about his campaigns?
Well, the king is a consummate professional. He's also quintessentially royal, and you can see his breeding in everything he does and the way he dresses himself. He is the world's best dressed man. Routinely gets that accolade.
Have you
The way
seen
he
yourself today, Rafe? I mean, come on.
But he really you can judge someone by how they react to scenarios. So of course this bird poops on him. He doesn't swear. He doesn't react or doesn't lose his cool or laugh hysterically. He reacts as you would expect a royal to relax, but a light-hearted royal and engaged. Just remember when he was in Australia in the 1990s. I think it was 94. I forget the year. And when someone fired a gun and he was on stage and everyone ducked immediately and he just turned like this and adjusted his cufflink.
Yeah.
That's royalty for you. That is breeding, being prepared for the moment. Because I suppose they'll always assume I am going to be watched by millions of people, so I need to realize my reaction will speak volumes about who I am and my character.
Do you have a response to that, Charles?
Well, not really. I agree with Rafe. I mean, he's absolutely right about the Australia thing when the gun went off, and Charles just looked to the side, and it was actually his bodyguard, Superintendent Colin Trimming, who moved straight over, as he should have done, prepared to take the bullet for the then Prince of Wales and moved him completely out of the way, by which time David Tang, the assailant, was jumped on by various police officers and arrested. But you mentioned the pen incident where he looked really angry that the pen didn't work. Well, I think we can forgive him on that day, given, as you've just said, he's just lost his mother, he's lost his father, he's just been crowned king. There's emotions going all over the place, and all he wants is a pen so he can sign his name correctly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not exactly asking for a king's, well, literally a king's ransom. So I think we can forgive him the odd time of temper, and there have been times we know in private where he has lost his temper with some people.
Yeah. Rafe, let's pivot because I absolutely love this story about the Prince of Wales preparing to sell off roughly a fifth of the Duchy of Cornwall's land portfolio, with plans to reinvest the profits into projects aimed at addressing Britain's housing shortage and environmental challenges. Prince William reportedly intends to direct around 500 million pounds over the next decade towards initiatives with the greatest social and ecological impact, according to his team. They're calling this urban fringe locations, and the duchy hopes to help create between 10,000 and 12,000 new homes by 2040. And a source said the prince decided that the duchy shouldn't exist to just own land. It should first and foremost exist to have a positive impact on the world. I've said it earlier this week, but really putting his money where his mouth is. This is a tangible thing we can all witness. We can all watch it evolve over time. I know King Charles, as Prince Charles, has done similar things. But it's nice to see Prince William put himself out there, and people can hold him more accountable when he makes bold moves like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And people may remember, of course, a lot of this is in response to an investigation done, I think it was by Channel 4 actually, which revealed that the Duchy of Cornwall, which is, people must remember, when you're Prince of Wales, you don't get any money from the state, from the taxpayer. You have your own independent income stream, which comes from the Duchy of Cornwall, which is a vast land holding of about 128,000 acres in southwest England and elsewhere. And that's where the Prince of Wales's money comes from. Prince of Wales, whether it was Prince Charles as he then was or Prince William, doesn't have any direct day-to-day involvement in what goes on in the Duchy of Cornwall, and so was quite shocked, I think, Prince William, when it was revealed that there was, a lot of issues regarding the conditions of some tenant properties. There wasn't much transparency in the finances. And as a result of this, he was determined to clean things up, and he was quite surprised at how things were. And he wanted to show, actually, that he was a person who was genuinely concerned about the condition of his future subjects. He was particularly hurt, I think, that by the accusation that the duchy was acting more like some sort of commercial property empire than a socially responsible institution in terms of the levels of rent and so forth. And so, as you say, what a wonderful policy of improvements and giving back to the community, then giving 500 million pounds. That's selling off 20% of your property portfolio to ensure that you do have affordable housing, environmental projects, rural employment, local community initiatives, and so forth. Excellent. Just the way in actually you need to deal with Britain's housing crisis. We have a major housing crisis in this country, and here we have the Prince of Wales deliberately trying to find ways to solve it and to solve it to help the conditions of those who are most in need in our society. I think, kudos to him, gold stars all round.
Amen. Rafe, Charles, Rafe just mentioned that this has become such a huge problem in the UK. I hear political leaders talk about this all the time, the homeless crisis, and not to mention, well, we'll just leave it at that. But how is this not political, or will there be people that accuse Prince William of dabbling in politics by trying to be, a fixer here?
Well, there'll always be those allegations from various people. I mean, Rafe mentioned earlier on, and he was quite right to do so, about the rise of republicanism in this country. And one of their complaints, and which is the money that the royal family get, uh, the, 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 the Prince of Wales, Prince William at the moment, does not get public money at all. This was set up in the 14th century by Edward III to give an income to his firstborn son, who would become Prince of Wales, and that's how it's happened all the way through. And he's a sort of manager on the sidelines. Now, the fact you mentioned that he's now put his money where his mouth is, I would prefer to say it. He's stuck two fingers up to all the critics who keep on saying that they're using their own money to feather their own nest and everything else. I think this is a fantastic thing that he has done. This 1.3 billion empire that he has, the Duchy of Cornwall, to give away 500 million pounds over 10 years is quite a substantial sum, and he's doing quite a lot. I think it also you could actually if you wanted to accuse him, I'm not coming up with an accusation, but you could also say yes, he is dabbling in politics because it does put the government on a back foot because it should be doing more in this country, as any government should be doing more for its people who are homeless. And so maybe the Prince of Wales is giving them a kick up the backside to do a little bit more.
Oh, Rafe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say also people need to understand there's a difference between being concerned about issues and being political. And there
Mhm.
are ways in which you can actually advance causes which do involve the political world, but in an apolitical way. So, to be political would be to criticize the policies of a government. To be political would be in some way to say that the government isn't doing what it should be doing. But to actually be concerned about your subjects, to be concerned about the environment, to be concerned about homelessness. These are all initiatives that the royal family, as with his wife early years childcare. You could say that the government should be dealing with this sort of stuff, but the royal family aren't criticizing, they're not commenting on policies. They're just getting ahead with promoting issues and causes that don't get enough media attention. And this is actually one of the great values of the monarchy. There's something called the welfare monarchy, which is what the monarchy has been since Queen Victoria's time. And if they weren't so concerned with the issues and causes that matter most to the British public, we wouldn't have a monarchy today. It's the fact that they are so concerned about the plight of the poor and disadvantaged in society that I think is one of the reasons they remain so popular. And the value of the monarchy is that because they are patrons of so many charities and organizations, which are very unsexy and wouldn't get the media's attention, soup kitchens,
Yeah.
the Girl Guides, the Boy Scouts, St. John's Ambulance. No one really cares about them. But when the royals go to one of their events, suddenly all the world's media are paying attention to them. So that is actually the value of the monarchy. It draws attention to the civic spirit of the country.
Yeah, and he's offering a solution. He's not just complaining about it. Charles, I'm going to go here. Rafe just mentioned there's a difference between getting political and there's a difference between actually having compassion and doing something about it. Harry's doing speeches where he's attacking Putin and President Trump and writing about anti-Semitism in the UK from when in a way that a lot of people disagreed with. Is that an example of the wrong way to do it, especially when you just told Chris Ship, you're a working royal? Shouldn't you abide by the working royal rules?
Well, he should abide by the working royal rules, but we actually know he is not a working royal, and he is in effect a private citizen. He may have this still have the title of prince, and his wife has still got the title of duchess. That's fine, and he can make these sort of comments about Putin and Trump and anti-Semitism if he wants to, because there is nothing else that he can do. I mean, he is a lost soul trying to find a niche that he can lay on or get on to do some good. That's where the sadness is if he'd stayed with the royal family, he would have those opportunities to help along the people that he needs to help. As Rafe has mentioned, you have all these people, the various charities that nobody cares about, nobody ever interested, unless of course the royal turns up. As we saw, in one particular royal, Catherine, the other week when she turned up in Italy. And that's the sadness of Prince Harry. He is just aimless, walking around, not doing all that much.
Rafe has Invictus, which if he put all of his energy and effort into, you know, it sounds like if he did that, they would be in a better place. We're hearing about leadership leaving. We're hearing about major sponsors, Boeing bowing out. Um, Maybe he just needs to focus his energy and stop working so hard on trying to look like a working royal.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. But he wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to have everything. He wants to be seen in the same light as we see his father and his brother. So he's allied himself with a very specific part of the political spectrum, the progressive, or you could call it the woke left. And you can't do that if you're a member of the royal family. You have to be apolitical. You have to appeal to all people. Now, at the same time, of course, he realizes that. Um, his only claim to fame is his proximity to the royal family, and that's why you're seeing him trying to ape the royal family with these pseudo royal tours. But if he really was keen to try to open a pathway back to reconciliation with the royal family, he would stop doing all of the political stuff and he would simply engage in charitable work and charitable endeavors. He would focus, as you say quite rightly, on Invictus as his greatest achievement and ensure that it was a greater success rather than allow himself to get distracted, which of course leads to all these sorts of fallouts, as you've seen.
Well, speaking of distractions, Charles, Prince Harry's new project will serve as a subtle clapback to Trump, according to Newsweek. No Way Out, the searing true story of men under siege, is a movie about the war in Afghanistan. Deadline reported earlier this week that Matt Charman, the Oscar-nominated writer of Bridge of Spies, is writing the adaptation for Netflix as part of its deal with Harry and Meghan's Archewell. Now, the clapback at Trump, according to Newsweek, is related to President Trump's comments in January, appearing to question the contribution of NATO forces, which included Britain in the war in Afghanistan, telling Fox News at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland, "We've never needed them. We have never really asked anything of them. They'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that, and they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines. We know that King Charles reached out to him personally after those comments and reprimanded him in the most King Charles way possible because he disagreed with them. Prince Harry released a statement disagreeing with those statements. Surely Harry has more to do or more going on than to produce an entire film to clap back the current president. I thought that this headline was a little wild.
I actually don't think that Harry is, this project is trying to, put down or criticism of Trump. What Trump said, let's not beat about the bush. What Trump said about UK forces in Afghanistan or anywhere
Wrong.
else was dreadful, absolutely disgraceful that he should utter those words. But then again, Trump utters all sorts of things about all sorts of subjects which are wrong. So we've just got to put that to one side and just ignore it. I don't see anything wrong in Harry wanting to immortalize this particular story. All the way through history of movies and everything else, we've had various stories about feats of endeavor which have ended in success or failure. And this is unfortunately a story of some British troops who all died. Now, I would look forward to seeing this film if and when it comes out. And I'm assuming that Harry is the producer for it because he clearly doesn't have any experience in front of the camera, behind the camera, or such. So he's going to be, I'm assuming, trying to get money to get it from writing it onto the screen. And I don't see it as him coming up with this idea to hit back at Trump at all. And I think it will be treated as respectful to those troops, those British troops in this engagement who died.
Rafe, Charles mentioned if it comes to fruition, this is one of many projects that the Sussexes have announced that we're just kind of scratching our head about. Meet Me at the Lake was announced 3 years ago. Where the heck is it? The wedding date. There's a new Polo scripted series allegedly on the horizon. And now this. Did these two announce things a little too soon? Should they
Well,
pump brakes?
I think you've just proved that they have actually, haven't you? But I would hope that they would understand that Netflix is going to be rather unhappy if this does not come to fruition, given it has been announced and it's on the back of a very, very good book, and they've got this Oscar-nominated screenwriter attached to it as well. They don't have as much leeway as they had in those days to actually make these sorts of mistakes. They do need to deliver. They do need to have a success after so much failure. And so I think there's a lot invested in this. And of course, as Charles was saying as well, Harry made 2 tours of Afghanistan, remember? And in his tour, he actually covered the area, the territory, which is the subject of this book. It was a hugely significant battle for the British Army in modern times. And so I think he has a lot of this invested in himself permanently. It's clearly an important test, I think, for Harry and Meghan, and if they're going to have an ongoing relationship with Netflix after all these commercial failures in previous efforts. So I think if they don't have the motivation to complete this, well, I think you can say it's farewell to any of their projects, because there's so much riding on this, I would say, for them and for their future success and for how they are perceived.
Charles,
I mean, just like that, I mean, Rafe is absolutely right. They've got to get this one right, because this is a really poignant subject matter. It's Netflix, and as Rafe says, it's a top writer who's involved in it, and you can't muck around with those sort of people. He's got to get the money for it. And I personally, if it does come to the screen, I would love to see it.
That's a very ending on a high vibe there, Charles. We love to see it. But I'm not going to end on a high vibe, because we're going to go to this next story. Meghan Markle launched a catastrophe to escape from disaster, is the headline. Tom Sykes weighed in on the May 19th appearance by Meghan Markle on his podcast, The Royalist. He said, what we saw this weekend in Geneva was a kind of, it was a kind of a PR mess, right? It was a kind of a catastrophe, really. It was very much, I think, structured to try and recover from the Australian catastrophe, which was a complete disaster. People did not like what they put across in Australia. So Sykes was there, not in Australia, but in Geneva. And his interpretation of Meghan's appearance was that she was trying to distract from Australia being a failure. They're still trying to position themselves as these, charitable martyrs, while also pursuing commercial opportunities. I mean, I get what he's saying, Rafe, that because I feel like they're constantly trying to distract from the last negative headline. At least we couldn't buy Meghan Markle's wardrobe immediately on her AI app, I guess, while she's talking about these horrible deaths of these children, which is a contradiction from Australia. What's your response to her Geneva visit?
Well, I have family in Geneva. I'm going there in August actually to see them. The Swiss are the most sensible, cool-headed people in the world. I would say the Swiss are probably the least interested in royalty, let alone the hangers-on like Meghan. And so I wasn't surprised in the slightest that those very sensible, rather boring Swiss didn't have any interest in going to hear anything that she had to say. It was once again a cack-handed approach by a woman who was thinking so desperately, I need something quick to recover from Australia. So rather than sit down and take a breath and think, actually, is this the appropriate platform? I'm just going to dive head into it because, of course, I'm Meghan and everyone loves me, and of course they'll come. Well, actually, Meghan, no, that's not true. And the sensible Swiss have shown that in great measure. But the irony of this woman the irony of Meghan to try to lecture us all about the dangers of social media and all the traps of it at the same time as and for children, and at the same time she's posting pictures of Lilibet, her daughter, on social media. I mean, what she's basically doing is she's saying, I'm Meghan, social media is dangerous, it's toxic, it's exploitative. Please like and subscribe and
Yeah.
share this image. That's what she's saying. Having Meghan talk about any of this is like McDonald's posting about anti-obesity on its social media channels, quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned. It's an absolute nonsense.
It's unreal. It really is. It's like your cause is worthy, but are you the right vehicle? You know, it's okay for Harry and Meghan to champion this. I mean, also talking about the dangers of AI, but 2 weeks ago, she was announcing that you could buy the clothes she was wearing while sitting next to cancer victims on her new AI app. The hypocrisy astounds. Charles, I can already feel that you're not going to engage in this with us. I can already feel you're not going to play pickleball, and it hurts me. So I'm just going to let you say something nice because I can feel you're trying to have high vibes right now.
I'm not saying I'm going to say anything nice about Meghan at all. All you've got to remember is we've had two royal visits within days of each other. We've had Catherine in Italy. Thousands of people turned out to visit, to watch her, be with her, and she was in the papers every day. And when I say she's in the papers, we're not talking about little bits. We're talking about big spreads in the papers for those 3 days that she was there. Meghan goes to Geneva, and hardly anybody turns up, as Rafe says. The Swiss, just ignored her completely. Not a line was in any of the newspapers that I read, and I read about 3 or 4 newspapers a day. So there wasn't a line in there about Meghan and what she was saying and everything else. Everything that we found out about what she was saying has been online, and we see it. The interesting thing I found today was that Meghan claims that she was in London.
Mm-hmm.
And she says she was in London because the plane can't fly direct from Geneva to Los Angeles, but has to have a stopover for a couple of, well, an hour or so in Heathrow, and didn't get off the plane. And that was her visit to London. And
Yeah.
that is going to be the only visit she's going to be making to this country, in my view, in the foreseeable future.
And Rafe, we know about that because privacy, important. Meghan shared the card that the flight attendants who are paid to serve her, they were like happy anniversary on some, whatever card stock that they have on the plane. And Meghan shares that with the world. What's the intention there? Is it like, no, look, those polls are wrong. I am really popular. People really do like me.
Well, exactly. This is what you say, there's a level of vanity there, but also a level of insecurity. The person who has to post every single piece of praise on social media is a person, I would say, who has some serious issues with regards to their sense of self-worth and their perceptions of themselves, or indeed their perceptions of perhaps how people in the UK perceive them. I mean, as we all well know, the real reason that we haven't seen Meghan in the UK isn't because of any security issues. It's because she's afraid of the booze. She's
Absolutely.
afraid even more than no one showing up. She's afraid of being heckled in the streets, and of course, there's every reason to assume that that would happen. That's why, yes, it's only in sort of interconnecting flights and airports that you're likely to see her in the UK at any point now. And I always just think it's a very good window into someone's soul when you see their social media posts, and you can judge a person by what they choose to post.
Well, Charles, you just said it. I want to just reiterate it. Are you predicting that Meghan will not attend Harry's Invictus tease this summer? He teases the games a year before they take place, and there was well, honestly, somebody likely from the Sussex camp, in my personal opinion, attorneys leaked to the Daily Mail back in January that Ravik was a no-brainer, that Ravik was going to turn, they were going to flip, and they were going to give Harry and Meghan that automatic armed security that they wanted and needed, and that Harry and Meghan were going to return this summer to celebrate the Invictus Games, to tease the Invictus Games, and we should expect the formal and official announcement within weeks. 6 months later, almost, here we are. No announcement from Ravik. Maybe they did formally reconsider, but there's been no new announcement from Ravik that Harry and Meghan are automatically going to get that armed security that they want. Do you see Meghan Markle coming with Prince Harry this summer to promote Invictus, or is she going to want us to have this back and forth for the next 12 months, 13, 14 months for the next Invictus Games, when we know that Harry's trying to get his family to show up for the opening of it in Birmingham? What is your prediction there?
I don't believe Ravik is going to succumb to the gun guards at all for Harry. And even if they did, I still believe that Meghan will not set foot properly in this country in the near future. I just can't believe it that she would come here, because there's so much for her to lose. She will get heckled out in the streets. I mean, yesterday we had our own Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, standing outside a petrol station trying to tell us this is great. What she was planning was great, and a lorry driver came along and heckled her. And if you're going to get Rachel Reeves heckled, you're certainly going to get Meghan heckled for what she's done, in regards to this country. So no, I don't see Meghan coming here in the very near future.
Rafe, it sounds like you kind of agree with Charles when it comes to Meghan's next UK trip. Not likely this summer with Prince Harry.
Yeah, I mean, you can never say never, obviously, but
Yeah.
you've got to remember everything that Meghan does is done in consultation with her PR team
And her
and
astrologer, Rafe, and her
and
astrologer.
well, astrologer. I don't know whether she sits under a glass pyramid as Sarah Ferguson used to do, but anyway, or throwing the chicken bones around. But the question she'll be asking, of course, is what's in this for me? What
Yeah.
do I get out of coming to the UK? How do I look in all of this? This is always the first thing that's consideration. What is the benefit and the cost analysis? And the negatives, the potential negatives, so far outweigh any positives that I just don't see that it's something that's likely.
All right. Well, what do you guys think at home? Agree with us, disagree with us? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Charles Ray, such a pleasure to spend time with you, Rafe Heydel-Mankoo. Hey, how did our podcast do? If you haven't listened to it, I did a podcast with Rafe while I was in DC. Rafe, how can people go listen to us?
Oh, yes, that's right. We've done the tables were reversed, and for once, I was asking all the questions of Kinsey in relation, of course, to the King's visit to America. I'm not a great expert on America, so Kinsey became the great oracle for that. And people can see that if they go to the channel of my think tank, which is the New Culture Forum. So just Google New Culture Forum in YouTube and click on videos, and you can find us discussing all things royal there.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I look forward to seeing you both again very soon. And Charles, I expect you to be wearing a bow tie next time.
Oh, absolutely. I'm heading for the fancy dress shop immediately.
The
I love
Union
it.
Jack bow tie, yes.
I love it. I love it. All right. We'll see you guys soon. And thanks so much
All
for
the
watching.
best.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.